couple of pushes are in full swing that take aim at past and future elections in Michigan. Joining me to talk about it are the co-host of It's Just Politics on Michigan Radio, Zoe Clark, and political reporter on the Capitol Beat for Bridge, Michigan, Jonathan Osting. Let's start with the Secure My Vote initiative. And Jonathan, you've written extensively about this. Michigan, for people that this might ring a bell, we have a voter ID law. So what does this initiative aim to do?
That's right. So Michigan does have a voter ID law, but it includes sort of an exception. In-person voters right now who go to the polls without an ID can still cast a ballot by signing an affidavit of identity, saying they are who they claim to be. And if they lie on that, they're caught lying on that, it's punishable by up to 5 years in prison. What this initiative would do is basically eliminate that affidavit option for in-person voters. They would no longer have that option. It would also require absentee ballot applicants to include an ID number or the last 4 digits of their social security number on their mailed-in application when they're sending it in. And then it would do a couple other things like prohibit the Secretary of State from mailing out applications for absentee ballots unless they're requested, and it would bar outside funding from third-party groups for election administration.
Did your most recent article mention that this could also ban volunteers? Is that right?
Yeah, so that last bit I mentioned about the prohibition on assistance from third-party groups would also prohibit what's called in-kind contributions. Those are generally anything of value that aren't actually money. So clerks are very concerned that could ban volunteers of all kinds, retirees who come into the office and help, stuff envelopes for election mailers and things of that sort. It would also, and the Secure My Vote committee acknowledges this, it would prohibit clerks from using donated church space as polling locations. So a lot of clerks do take advantage of free space in churches to host voting centers on election day. This would ban that. It wouldn't ban churches altogether from being polling places, but would require clerks to pay for those polling locations if they're going to use them. So ostensibly it would raise costs for clerks who currently, benefit from free labor and free space.
Yeah, and the why is obviously, is it simply to get around, and I'll bring Zoe in on this, this is simply, both of these are to get around the governor's veto, correct?
Yes, I mean, we know that the governor is going to veto very soon, likely now that it's passed both the state House and the state Senate. Bills passed by Republicans who have a majority in both of those chambers that are doing very, very similar. In fact, language almost exactly to the ballot, just passed by the House this week and last week by the Senate. But look, as Jonathan has written about and many smart people in Lansing have said, this is what Republicans want. They want this governor to veto it. It brings the attention to this issue. And then folks who are, looking to get the 340,000 plus signatures on the Secure Michigan can say, the governor isn't going to do it. This is what we have to do to basically, because Michigan has this constitutional quirk, be able to circumvent her if enough signatures are gathered.
Zoe, another initiative is by Trump supporters to get a full forensic audit of the last presidential election. It even came with a rally that included some lawmakers at the Capitol. I guess the key word here is forensic. How would this audit be different than the 250 plus audits already completed? Anybody know the answer to that?
Well, right. And let's be very clear, there isn't such a legal terminology of forensic audit. As many folks have said in the past, these are two words that many people think sound good together. And so they have been put together. As we saw in Arizona, millions of dollars was spent only to basically show that Trump got fewer votes. But yes, indeed, there was a rally, up to about 1,000 people. Jonathan was there amongst other Trump supporters, and this is sort of what they see as the next step. We should say that State Representative Steve Carra, who has already said he's running for Congress, introduced a bill that would do this in, again, the Republican-led state House. That bill has been basically designated to a committee where bills go to die. So it doesn't even look like, Republican leadership is interested in this, at least at the Capitol in Lansing. But no, this is the rallying cries. We need a forensic audit. But like you say, there have already been hundreds of those, including by both Democrats and Republicans here in Michigan who are clerks.
So, Republican gubernatorial candidates have started weighing in on this. I know James Craig, the former Detroit police chief, switched to say he's now in favor of audits of the last election. Tudor Dixon, a Republican candidate for governor, stayed away from saying the last election was stolen. But she seemed to point the finger at Jocelyn Benson for changing the rules. Jonathan, do you feel that this is all going to end up playing a huge role in the governor's race?
Yeah, certainly it will. James Craig, of course, had sort of shied away from questions about former President Trump's mostly unsubstantiated and false claims about the 2020 election here in Michigan. But by backing this call for a presidential audit, he's at least signaling to both Trump, whose endorsement he would like, and Trump supporters that he will, sort of align with them for these sort of calls to again review the election. So that's a big one because Craig is the presumed front runner right now for the Republican nomination. That said, nothing is settled in that primary, but a lot of the candidates, Tudor Dixon you mentioned, and others have all supported this call for a forensic audit. As Zoe mentions, though, the state legislature, the Republican leadership there is not. I mean, the Senate Oversight Committee, of course, months ago came out with a report debunking many of Trump's claims and saying, there's no evidence of widespread fraud and voters should actually trust the results of the 2020 election.
I'm going to have to leave it right there. Jonathan, Zoe, always great to talk to you guys. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
And we're right back on Flashpoint.